been a while since I actually held up a book in a video. Hi, my name is Rachel, and today I'm going to talk about the inheritance Hi, my name is Rachel, and today we are going to talk about the inheritance of Orquidea Are you kidding me? I can't say the word Divina? Okay. Hi, my name is Rachel, and today we are going to talk about the inheritance of Orquidea Divina. Thank you. This book is gorgeous. This book has coffee on it. Oh, Judas. Oh my god. Oh my god, you can probably see that, can't you? I spilled coffee on this book. That might be milk actually from my son. Listen, I'm not going to talk about this in this video, but I am going to talk about it in a soon video. I want to see less Charlie Bowatter covers and more of whoever did this, because this is truly something. It's not that Charlie Bowatter cannot create art, I just would like to see her not monopolize book covers. You know what I'm saying? This book is literary fantasy, magical realism, and it is one of the most gorgeous things that I have ever beheld with my eyeballs, but also read. This book is about different generations of the Montoya family. Our main characters are Orquidea. This is Marimar, Orquidea's granddaughter, Tatinelli, Orquidea's other granddaughter, and Ray, her grandson. And then eventually Tatinelli's daughter, Rhiannon. So it's got different generations of the Montoya family. And the Montoya family is very used to magic and unexplained things happening in their family, and their grandmother never answering any questions about it. One day when Marimar and Ray and Tatinelli are older, they get messages from their grandmother, Orquidea, saying that they need to come to her funeral and collect their inheritance. Instead, Orquidea transforms and they are left with a bunch of questions. Not a single answer. I had a grandma like that, kind of. 7 years later, her inheritance has manifested in gifts upon her grandchildren. But soon, somebody comes along and starts picking off their family tree one by one. Speaking of family tree, this book has one, and I'll show it to you in a second. They then, her grandchildren in the present travel to Ecuador 7 years later, trying to figure out sort of like the secrets of where Orquidea came from and figure out exactly who's behind picking off their family tree. But also it alternates back to the past, where you see Orquidea's life growing up and how she got to be where she is today. Well, sort of. Where she ended up. That's a better way of saying it. I would describe this as enchanting and also haunting. This is definitely unlike anything I have read before, and as a person who loves genealogy, I have done my family's genealogy, I have gone in and uncovered the secrets of my family and our DNA, and reunited long lost kids and parents, helped do that through DNA testing, and as somebody who does that, this book means a lot to me. I can't even describe to you. This gives me life. This gives me oxygen that I did not know I needed. This is everything to me. I love family trees. So this was a key reference for me while reading this, because Orquidea had 5 different husbands and a bunch of kids, so it was kind of hard to keep up. Without the family tree, I am a very visual learner, so I definitely needed that in order to keep up with who was who. That being said, I did alternate between the physical and the ebook and the audio, and I can't highly recommend the audiobook enough. It truly is a delight. The narrator did a fantastic job bringing the story to life. I mostly listened to it at the tail end because I was trying to get some things done, and also I'm trying to participate in Blackaweenathon, so I needed to kind of wrap it up more quickly, and I have not been reading very fast, so I decided it's time for me to get back into audiobooks. So I did listen to it, and it was a delight. The alternating back and forth was phenomenal. Every time a chapter ended, I simultaneously was excited to go into what was happening with the characters in the present, and still kind of wanting to linger in the past with Orquidea. This was so well done. Zoraida, just the writing, immaculate. So the flashback sort of reminded me of this movie called Big Fish, put it somewhere, where there's this guy and his dad told him a lot of stories growing up, and as an adult he doesn't really believe them anymore, kind of gets annoyed with his dad because he was sort of absent because he kept going on these adventures, and you sort of go back and forth, but you spend a lot of time in the past with the dad when he was a younger man, and you see all these adventures that he went on and all these magical things that he experienced. That was a lot like this. So if you've seen that movie, I haven't watched it in a long time. I don't know if it holds up, but I really enjoyed it when I watched it, and this reminds me of that. But this is way better. You get to experience these things in the past with Orquidea, find out how she got to where she ended up, and also you're flipping to the present and sort of seeing the effects of those things on her descendants, and I think that that was beautifully done. The writing in this, again, is just spectacular. Orquidea is described in this as a whisper of a girl who wanted to turn into a scream, and that just really sat with me and I found really haunting, because that is definitely how I would describe her, especially seeing where she came up and everything, where she came up, and you know what she went through as a child, and then leaving and going off on her own and everything she experienced after then. Yeah, that adds up. It also has this sort of underlying theme that I thought was beautifully done of sort of like how like what we owe to each other and what we keep for ourselves. I don't really know how to articulate that, but I just found that sort of like Orquidea wasn't able to always be honest, and she also was never really able to just truly be her own, and I relate to that as a mom. I feel that because it's a tough spot to be in. I also think that this does so wonderfully talk about fractured families and dysfunctional families in a way that I have not seen done before. There's a line where Zoraida says, Marimar, the girl on the front, says to Orquidea, her grandmother, "Who are you? Why do this? What broke your heart so completely that its splinters found their way through generations?" And I just, again, as a genealogist, that sits with me. Ray, Marimar's cousin, who she's very close with, Orquidea's other grandchild, is also a main character who you get perspectives from. I loved Ray. He was so funny, and I loved him. He was an artist. He painted, and Orquidea encouraged him to paint and make that his profession, and I loved that journey for him, and I loved watching him go on that adventure becoming a painter. I thought that that was so well done, but also talking about who he was in his past before his mom passed away, when he lived at the house with Orquidea in Four Rivers. Ray's story really stuck with me. I loved the experiences of him becoming a painter. I thought that that was beautifully done and really set his journey apart from Marimar's. They really did have their own unique voices, and I loved being in both of their perspectives. At one point when Ray is visiting for Orquidea's funeral, it says that he traced a finger along the rows of records that had been the only music allowed in the house, pushed aside the rug to see if the stain was still there from the time he and Marimar had tried to make paint out of berries and crushed insects. He moved out into the hall and stopped at the banister leading upstairs. Instead of marking his height with a marker like other mothers, Parcha, his mom, had made little cuts into the grain of the wood panel. She said it was so that the house could remember his height, but now that Orquidea was passing on, who would get the house? And this is the line that like really stuck with me, was who would remember the boy he's been? As a person who is really into genealogy, again, this book as a whole really spoke to me on a personal level, but that part really hit home for me. I talked about this before, but if you're newer here, several years ago I wanted to find out my grandfather's history because he grew up an orphan. He was never adopted. He grew up in foster care, and we didn't have any information about him. He never found his family, and my grandmother had claimed that he tried to look for them, but there was never a fruitful end to that search. So I decided that I would try to solve the mystery of where he came from. And through a year and a half of being diligent, I did end up finding out who his parents were. They were never married. He had a bunch of half-siblings, and in fact one of them was still alive and lived in Florida, and we were living across the country at the time, but I ended up coming to visit and meeting her. This is my great aunt Helen. And so this was a really magical experience for me, and this book sort of brought that back to life for me. No, bitch, do not cry on camera. That's so embarrassing. Oh my god. So finding that journey and reading that line, who would remember the boy he's been? When you grow up in foster care in the 20s, like my grandfather did, in 20s and 30s, there was really nobody to remember the boy he's been, but I wanted to honor that journey, so I've documented all of it that I can find. And so like seeing that articulated into a book was something for me. Fuck. Okay. I'm fine. I am a totally emotionally stable adult human being. Oh my God. This is so embarrassing. It also does a beautiful job of talking about our elders in our family who hold a lot of trauma and keep a lot of secrets because of that, and how frustrating that can be for the younger generations of us who like want to know from where we came and who we came from, and you know, them holding that in. Orquidea was forced to hold it in, and Marimar asks her at one point, "What can't you say?" And Orquidea says, "For you, for all of you, we become what we need in order to survive, and I need to make sure that you are all protected." And that really, that stuck with me as well, because that reminded me of my great-grandmother who had my grandfather, put him up for, you know, into foster care, and that she was my Orquidea, right? So she held all of these secrets and never told anybody, and I kind of wish that she did. I kind of wish that I had like my Orquidea moment with her. I think that the ending of this book was so beautifully and perfectly done. I can understand why other people didn't like it, but a part of this book is really just being on the journey and falling in love with the Montoya family. That's really like a big part of it, and just enjoying like the magic along the way. Also, for those of you who like the night circus, there's a circus in this that is magical, and I think you will like that element of it. So if you are a fan of the night circus, I would pick this up. Okay, that's it. I loved this book. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I rounded up to 5 on Goodreads because Zoraida Cordova's writing deserved it. I hope you will pick this up. I love it. I love it so much. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Also, this is definitely adult. This is not YA. There are some like sex scenes in it that are pretty graphically depicted. So I would not, if you're like concerned about that, maybe don't hand this to like a 13-year-old. It's definitely adult, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful, and I can't highly recommend it enough. Okay, that's it. Leave your comments down below. Let me know if you have looked into your family history and what secrets you've uncovered, if any, or if you have an Orquidea in your family that keeps all the family secrets. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.